Okay, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay, guys, I hope everyone is doing well tonight. And I'm getting a late start, but at least I'm doing a video. So there you go, and let's get into it. Now, I think I will leave thanking Patreon and so forth to the end, because we do have quite a few and I want to be able to get on with the video so that those who are not regular listeners usually don't listen right to the end, and we can save it for our little family. Because I know some of you guys are diehard listeners. A lot of you are, really. It surprises me. But a lot of you are, and that's good as far as I'm concerned, because I like to have that core group there and your comments and so forth. And not everybody that's a diehard listener comments, but anyway, you are welcome here, whatever the case. So let's get into the news. It is November 1st, and it is 11:11 p.m. Wow. Okay. Well, let's get right into it here. Now, you've probably seen this already, but I thought it was, it's not really telling, but it's interesting. It doesn't prove anything, just interesting. It says, better watch your back. Trevor Noah asks Hillary Clinton, how did you kill Jeffrey Epstein? Hillary cackles. Now, I know the way they're doing it. They're trying to make fun of the whole narrative that Hillary has been responsible for any deaths, and they're making fun of that. They're putting it right out into our face. And yes, I guess if she really hadn't killed anyone, it would be funny. But we know the truth. Anyway, this is, says on Wednesday morning, this can't be it. Is this it? Yes, it is. On Wednesday morning, famed pathologist Dr. Michael Baden went on Fox and Friends, where he said evidence points to homicide over suicide in Epstein's prison death. No. What a shock. Dr. Baden also pointed to the 3 broken neck bones and said they were very unusual of suicide and more indicative of homicide strangulation. Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's Lolita Express 27 times, and according to author Conchita Sarnoff, almost every time that Clinton was on the plane via the pilot logs, there were underage girls on the plane. Well, no surprise there. Isn't that why they go to Epstein Island? I'm just saying. On Halloween Daily Show, comedian Trevor Noah had Hillary and Chelsea Clinton on his show to promote their book, because they obviously are quite desperate for money now that they have no more pay-to-play schemes that they're able to, because she has no power, so she has nothing to trade. So yes, they're probably hurting for money, and perhaps some of their money may even have been seized under that new executive order from, is it 2 years ago? December 17th, I think, or maybe it was the 21st. Obama came out, oh gosh, I hope not. Trump came out with an executive order that seizes the funds of anyone involved in human trafficking, a whole list of things. So, all right. Well, let's come down here. During the interview, Trevor Noah asked Hillary Clinton how she killed Jeffrey Epstein. That was brave. Hillary cackled in amusement. Trevor Noah to Hillary Clinton, how did you kill Jeffrey Epstein? Now, we're not stupid enough to think that she actually snuck in there and strangled him to death with her own 2 arms. No, of course not. She has these things done. Now, was it her? I don't know. I can assume it's somebody in the deep state, somebody that doesn't want that information out. Who could that be? Possibly Hillary, because of Bill, and she's been to the island as well, if I'm not mistaken. So obviously there is someone in the deep state that does not want what Jeffrey Epstein has to be public, and did away with him. So was it Hillary? Could have been. Not necessarily, though.
Hillary, I have to ask you a question that has been plaguing me for a while. How did you kill Jeffrey Epstein? Because you're not in power, but you have all the power. I really need to understand how you do what you do. Because you seem to be behind everything nefarious, and yet you do not use it to become president. What is the game plan?
Well, Trevor.
But honestly, though, what does it feel like being the boogeyman of the right?
Well, it's a constant surprise to me. Because the things they say, and now, of course, it's on steroids with being online, are so ridiculous beyond any imagination that I could have. And yet they are so persistent in putting forth these crazy ideas and theories. Honestly, I don't know what I ever did to get them so upset.
Have you ever thought of just like meeting someone who says like, Hillary, you did this, and just looking at them and being like, yes, I did?
But I also think it's because it is effective. Like, I'll never forget reading an article after the 2016 election where the reporter interviewed someone who had been an undecided voter, and he said, you know, he thought my mom had won all 3 debates. She clearly had a greater command of the subject matter, and yet he just kept reading that she had murdered more than 50 people. And he said somewhat nonchalantly, like, I don't think that she murdered 50, but like, what if she murdered 2? And so you just think it's this like constant erosion of truth and sanity.
Right.
Right. Constant erosion of truth and sanity. And they are blaming the right. Okay. Well, I think that there's a reason why people keep saying that Hillary has killed over 50 people. Because you think of the people that she knows, and it seems like anybody that's going to testify against her or the Clintons or the Clinton Foundation, they mysteriously die. Like the guy from Haiti that came over specifically to testify. He was in his hotel room and he was found dead. He commits suicide. Now, who would get on a plane, pack everything, pack the clothes that they're going to take and their toiletries and everything, put it in a suitcase, fly to America, and then commit suicide in the hotel room? Who does that? Nobody does. Nobody. If you're going to commit suicide, you're going to do it before you leave, because you're going to be like, I'm going to commit suicide anyway. Why would I get on a plane and go to all that trouble of packing a suitcase? Or if he planned on committing suicide when he got to the hotel, why did he bring a suitcase? I'm just saying. It doesn't make sense. And there are lots and lots and lots of stories like that. It seems that if you're too close to the Clintons, well, look at what happened to Vince Foster. We know that he was murdered. We know he didn't commit suicide because he had the gun in the wrong hand. And how do you shoot yourself in the back of the head? It's hard. Not that I've ever tried, and I never will. But what have you. All right. Now, I'm just going to skip back over here to make sure everything is ducky boo here. That is wonderful. And let's come back here. I have to check every now and then, because every once in a while I get through the whole show and then I realize it isn't recording, and that is quite disconcerting, to say the least. All right, let's go on now. And this is interesting as well. Well, of course, I don't want to bring you boring stuff, so of course it's interesting. It's interesting to me anyway. And usually when I pick these things out to bring to you, they're things that I think that you will, find interesting as well. So if you don't, well, sue me. No, I'm just kidding. You wouldn't get anything. MSNBC reporter quits. Admits network is CIA propaganda. Interesting. And MSNBC reporter William Arkin, excuse me, I hope I didn't make you yawn. A longtime and well-known military reporter has resigned from his job with MSNBC while admitting the network has become infiltrated by deep state operatives. You don't say. According to the respected military reporter, MSNBC is now the propaganda arm of the CIA and FBI and routinely peddles disinformation to the masses. Well, isn't truth refreshing? I mean, we know this, but when somebody in the industry comes out and admits it, it's extremely refreshing. So God bless this man for telling the truth and standing up and having integrity. Arkin recently blasted NBC News along with MSNBC News in an email for becoming captive and subservient to the national security state, reflexively pro-war in the name of stopping President Donald Trump, and now the prime propaganda instrument of the war machine's promotion of militarism and imperialism. Couldn't say that better myself. Thanks to the collapse of the Russian collusion hoax relentlessly pushed by mainstream media for the last 3 years, millions of ordinary Americans are slowly waking up to the fact that, I hate when the yawn just takes over my face, violently takes over my face. Slowly waking up to the fact that mainstream media does not always tell the truth. Actually, I would go a step further and I would say that they seldom tell the truth. Now, to me, a part truth is a lie. If you're only telling part of the truth, I call that being economical with the truth. And I remember somebody, because I was selectively editing what I told them, and they said, "Michelle, you are so economical with the truth." And that was a very nice way of saying lying. Even though I wasn't lying, I was just selectively editing to make it seem the way that I wanted them to make them to believe it was. And yeah, looking back on it now, yeah, that's a lie. It's a lie. A part truth is a lie. And so I would say that it's not that they don't always tell the truth. I would say that they seldom to ever tell the truth. Now, they may tell a form of the truth. There may be enough truth in there to make it palatable. It's like when you give your dog a treat, or a pill rather. You're giving your dog a pill, and if you just, show the dog the pill, the dog isn't going to eat it. They're not. No dog would. They just seem to know what's medicine and what isn't, and what's good to eat and what isn't. Now, if you wrap it in a piece of bread and give it to the dog, sure, he'll wolf it right down. Or wrap it or smear it with peanut butter and give to the dog. Yeah, they'll swallow it. Absolutely they will, because it's wrapped in something palatable, and that's what the news does. They are the ones that are putting your medicine inside of the little, inside a piece of bread or peanut butter or something tasty, so they can feed it to you and you can take your medicine and you can believe what they want you to believe. We all know that is the truth. All right. But the lies did not begin with the concocted theory that President Trump was colluding with the Kremlin. The mainstream media has always pushed disinformation on behalf of shady government agencies with the purpose of manipulating society. It's why the mainstream networks were created in the first place. That's the truth. According to William Arkin, the spooks in the mainstream media are in a stronger position than ever before. Indeed, the national security establishment not only hasn't issued a beat, but instead has gained dangerous strength and, I think that should be, hasn't missed a beat, but instead has gained dangerous strength and is ever more autonomous and practically impervious to criticism. Yeah, that's the truth. Another great quote comes to me here. The real menace of our republic is the invisible government, which like a giant octopus sprawls its slimy legs over our cities, states, and nation. The little coterie of powerful international bankers have virtually run the United States government for their own selfish purposes. They practically control both parties and control the majority of the newspapers and magazines in this country. They use the columns of these papers to club into submission or drive out of office public officials who refuse to do the bidding of the powerful corrupt cliques who compose the invisible government. It operates under cover of self-created screen and seizes our executive officers, legislative bodies, school, courts, newspapers, and every agency created for the public protection. Source, the mayor of New York from 1918 to 1925. Collective Evolution reports Arkin has worked with NBC and MSNBC since 2016, and it's great to see that he's leaving due to the fact that these outlets have become nothing but the central propaganda arm of the CIA, the Pentagon, and the FBI. This network alone consists of former CIA, NSA, and Pentagon officials as news analysts. MSNBC host and former Bush-Cheney communications director Nicole Wallace is one of multiple great examples. MSNBC's star national security reporter Ken Delanian was widely mocked by media outlets for years for being an uncritical CIA stenographer before he became a beloved NBC MSNBC reporter. And let's not forget CNN's Anderson Cooper's connections to the CIA. Operation Mockingbird, a CIA program to infiltrate mainstream media and use it to influence the minds of the masses decades ago, seems to be in full effect today at a larger scale than anyone can possibly imagine. In early 2018, NBC hired former CIA chief John Brennan to serve as senior national security and intelligence analyst. Yes, and we all know that John Brennan is completely unbiased. A declassified document from the CIA archives in the form of a letter from a CIA task force addressed to the director of the Central Intelligence Agency details the close relationship that exists between the CIA and mainstream media and academia. The document states that the CIA task force now has relationships with reporters from every major wire service, newspaper, news weekly, and television network in the nation, and that this has helped us turn some intelligence failure stories into intelligence success stories and has contributed to the accuracy of countless others. Furthermore, it explains how the agency has persuaded reporters to postpone, change, hold, or even scrap stories that could have adversely affected national security interests or jeopardized sources and methods. Again, all of this leads to Arkin publishing a critique of NBC and MSNBC in the form of an email he sent to multiple outlets, including The Intercept, where I first came across this story. You can read it in its entirety below. My expertise, through seemingly to be all the more central to the challenges and dangers we face, also seems to be less valued at the moment, and I find myself completely out of sync with the network, being neither a day-to-day reporter nor interested in the Trump circus. To me, there is also a larger problem. Though they produce nothing that resembles actual safety and security, the national security leaders and generals we have always allowed to do their thing unmolested. Despite being at war, no great wartime leaders or visionaries are emerging. There is not a soul in Washington who can say that they have won or stopped any conflict, and though there might be the beloved perfumed princes in the form of the Petraeus and Wes Clarks, or the so-called warrior monks like Mattis and McMaster, we've had more than a generation of national security leaders who sadly and fraudulently have done little of consequence, and yet we and others embrace them. Even the highly partisan formers who masquerade as analysts, we do so ignoring the empirical truth of what they have wrought. There is not one country in the Middle East that is safer today than it was 18 years ago. Indeed, the world becomes even more polarized and dangerous. Windrum again convinced me to return to NBC to join the new investigative unit in the early days of the 2016 presidential campaign. I thought that the mission was to break through the machine of perpetual war acceptance and conventional wisdom to challenge Hillary Clinton's hawkishness. It was about an interesting moment at NBC because everyone was looking over their shoulder at Vice and other upstarts creeping up on the mainstream, but then Trump got elected and investigations got sucked into the tweeting vortex, increasingly lost in a directionless adrenaline rush. The national security and political version of leading the broadcast with every snowstorm, and I would assert that in many ways NBC just began emulating the national security state itself. Busy and profitable, no wars won, but the ball is kept in play. I'd argue that under Trump, the national security establishment not only hasn't missed a beat, but indeed has gained dangerous strength. Now it is even more autonomous and practically impervious to criticism. I'd also argue, ever so gingerly, that NBC has become somewhat lost in its own verve, proxies of boring moderation and conventional wisdom, defender of the government against Trump, cheerleader for the open and subtle threat mongering, in love with procedure and protocol over all else, including results. I accept that there's a lot to report here, but I'm more worried about how much we are missing. Hence my desire to take a step back and think why so little changes with regard to America's wars. In our day-to-day whirlwind and hostage status as prisoners of Donald Trump, I think, like everyone else does, that we miss so much. People who don't understand the medium or the pressures loudly opine that it's corporate control, or even worse, that it's partisan. Sometimes I quip in response to friends on the outside and to government sources that if they meant by the word partisan that it is New Yorkers and Washington... Something just fell and broke. I don't know what that was. I don't know if I want to know what that was. I can't think what it was. Oy. All right. Yeah, it didn't just fall by itself. I have 2 cats. I'm sure they helped it fall. I accept that there's a lot to report here, but okay, we've already got to that. Okay, if they mean by the word partisan that it is New Yorkers and Washingtonians against the rest of the country, then they are right. For me, I realized how out of step I was when I looked at Trump's various bumbling intuitions, his desire to improve relations with Russia, to denuclearize North Korea, to get out of the Middle East, to question why we are fighting in Africa, even in his attacks on the intelligence community and the FBI. Of course, he isn't an ignorant and incompetent imposter. Now, of course, we don't agree with this, but that is his opinion. Yet I'm alarmed at how quick NBC is to mechanically argue the contrary, to be in favor of policies that just spell more conflict and more wars. Really? We shouldn't get out of Syria. We shouldn't go for the bold move of denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula. Even on Russia, though we should be concerned about the brittleness of our democracy, that it is so vulnerable to manipulation. Do we really yearn for the Cold War? And don't even get me started with the FBI. What? We now lionize this historically destructive institution? Arkin has joined many others to blow the whistle on how all of this works and how mainstream media has become ground zero for these political pathologies of militarism and servitude to security state agencies. And it says, Mr. Udo Alfkate is a top German journalist and editor who has been for more than 2 decades. He went on the record stating he was forced to publish the works of intelligence agents under his own name, also mentioning that non-compliance would result in him losing his job. Not long ago, he made an appearance on RT News stating that I've been a journalist for about 25 years. I was educated to lie, to betray, and not to tell the truth to the public. But seeing right now, within the last months, how the German and American media tries to bring war to the people in Europe, to bring war to Russia, this is a point of no return, and I'm going to stand up and say it's not right what I've done in the past to manipulate people, to make propaganda against Russia, and it's not right what my colleagues do and have done in the past because they are bribed to betray the people, not only in Germany, all over Europe. Here is a great TED Talk from a veteran investigative journalist and former CBC News investigative reporter, Cheryl Atkinson. In it, she explains how AstroTurf, or fake grassroots movements funded by political, corporate, or other special interests, are very effectively manipulating and distorting mainstream media messages, whether it be political or corporate. Amber Lyon is a 3-time Emmy award-winning journalist at CNN. She has gone on record stating that the mainstream media outlets are routinely paid by the U.S. government as well as foreign governments to selectively report and distort information on certain events. She has also stated that the United States government has editorial control over mainstream media content. Again, these are just a few examples out of many. And it says the problem of fake news isn't solved by hoping for a referee, but rather because we as citizens, we as users of these services help each other. We talk and we share and we point out what is fake. We point out what is true. The answer to bad speech is not censorship. The answer to bad speech is more speech. We have to exercise and spread the idea that critical thinking matters now more than ever, given the fact that lies seem to be getting more popular. And that was by Edward Snowden, that quote. So while I don't agree with this reporter's stance, I do have to give him kudos for standing up and telling what is going on the inside. I appreciate that. I'm sure that you do too. I don't necessarily have to agree with all of his thoughts, but I certainly can appreciate him standing up and telling the truth as he sees it. All right, now let's go back and let's look at this. Yeah, I think I'm going to erase this because it's CNN and it's too biased. All right. Now, I think you'll find this interesting. Media blackout, how Trump forced the sale of China's port in California and may have thwarted a Chinese invasion. Now, this is, I know we've heard that that port in California, Trump turned that around and he forced the sale of it. And this is very good news, and we probably never really realized how good a news it really is and what he actually thwarted. But this is very interesting, and it's very telling that it isn't all over the news, because it should be. Remember when the Obama administration accepted a 40-year lease from the Chinese for a shipping port in Long Beach, California? It was quite controversial at the time, but since the search engines, but since the search engines and social networks don't often report pro-Trump stories, many may not know that President Trump forced the Chinese state-owned Costco to sell that port several months ago. China is stealing our technology, and only President Trump has been fighting to stop it. China has kept our businesses out of China or only in minority ownership positions if allowed in China. Now President Trump has ordered the sale of the Chinese government ownership of the port of Long Beach. Bet you didn't know that the totalitarian Chinese owned our port. He did it for national security, something Obama did not care about when he allowed the Chinese to buy the port. Well, there's that, and there's also, it's probably also a huge trafficking hub for all sorts of things. The Trump administration's Department of Homeland Security has forced China's state-owned Costco to sell the Port of Long Beach over security concerns. China's Costco Shipping Holdings, which bought out its 75% owned Hong Kong-based Orient Overseas International, was forced to sell its Port of Long Beach container terminal ownership to Macquarie Infrastructure Partners for $1.78 billion. The Obama administration had no problems with OOCL signing a 40-year lease with the city of Long Beach in 2012 for control of America's second largest and most automated container handling operations. The sweetheart deal was part of the Middle Harbor redevelopment program to fund a 1.5 billion expansion through 2020. Obama gave 150 billion to Iran to be used against American military, blowing up oil fields and supporting the terrorist efforts worldwide. Obama sold an American port to the totalitarian Chinese. The good news is that Donald Trump is the president for Americans and the free world. Obama tried to give away our freedoms, or sell our safety. That is something the Democrats will have to defend in 2020, especially Joe Biden. Well, Joe Biden, he's pretty much bit the dust. I don't know if he was ever really a serious contender anyway. First of all, I mean, you can tell by his rallies. I wouldn't even call them rallies. It's hard to rally the dead. But, you know, you can tell he doesn't have that much support. And also, I don't think he has the smarts for it. He certainly doesn't have the scruples for it. There's no question about that. The Trump administration Department of Homeland Security has forced China's state-owned Costco to sell the Port of Long Beach over security concerns. China's Costco shipping holdings, which bought out at 75%. Okay, we read this. They're going over it again. But of course, we heard about this from Q. Originally, that's where we originally learned about this port. Not where we originally learned about it, but I didn't really see it as a big issue until Q. I should put it that way. The Obama administration had no problems with, okay, this is just reporting the exact same thing that we've already read, which to me is a waste of time, space, and energy. Okay, I was reading this. And it says, why is this story important? Forget China's goods and our economy for a moment. Forget about all the back and forth on trade between Trump and China. Have you ever wondered why Dianne Feinstein and other California Democrats are so eager to please China? Is Senator Dianne Feinstein a Chinese agent? Chinese human rights activists disappear after visiting. This is interesting. Look at all this. This is all links to other stories. Is Senator Dianne Feinstein a Chinese agent? Chinese human rights activists disappear after visiting Senator Feinstein's office. Clinton State Department official just sentenced to prison for taking money and gifts from China. China gave Biden's son $1.5 billion for startup in industry he had no previous experience in, and that included the nephew of a mobster. And what about the tech giants and their ties to China? Tech giants panic as their deep state ties to communist China are revealed. PayPal billionaire co-founder Peter Thiel accuses Google of treason after the tech giant sides with communist China over the U.S. military. This is interesting. I'm going to have to read some of these and bring them to you when I find things that are interesting, because I really was not aware of everything that went on with Dianne Feinstein. I've heard that, you know, she is possibly a Chinese agent. She definitely had a Chinese chauffeur who had nefarious ties. So, says, okay, is it possible that they've been trying to pave the way for a Chinese land invasion that would begin in California? Anything's possible. I'm completely serious, and the tinfoil hat I wear is a fashion statement. President Trump is a patriot. I do not agree with him on all issues, but I believe his heart is in the right place, and I believe he loves America. Trump forced the sale of that port to protect us against Chinese invasion. Mike Adams goes way deeper in the below video and tells us how the California wildfires may be involved in a ruthless plot for China to invade America through California. Well, I'll tell you one thing for sure. Those fires, they are intentionally set. They are meant to clear the land. You know, I've seen houses burn down in my lifetime, or I've arrived, you know, and I'm driving by where a house has burned down. You never see it burned right down to the foundation, where there's not even a tub left, there's not a stove left, there's not a fireplace structure left, nothing. There's nothing in these California fires that's left. Nothing. You think about how hot something has to burn a tub so that it's just disintegrated. It just no longer exists. Tubs and, you know, your laundry machines and your washing machines. Well, your washing machines are laundry machines. Your stove, your fridge. Usually these things are, yes, they're charred, but they're still there, you know, when a house burns. And, you know, but here you've got it right down to the pavement, and you still have trees that are green in the yard. How does that happen? The house burns so hot that the tub is just not there anymore. It just doesn't exist. And yet the trees are all still green. Yet the cars in the driveway, the rims have melted. Are you kidding me? Don't tell me that the California wildfires are natural, because they're not natural. And somebody is doing this on purpose. And I believe it is directed energy, WEAPONS. That's what I believe it is. And, or something of that nature. They may have something that we're not even aware of yet, but they are deliberately started, and there is a reason. They're just not just starting them to start them. They're doing it for a reason. And I think that the areas where they're doing are well thought out. Now, for what reason, I don't know. Could be a prelude to Agenda 2030. If you haven't read about that, if you're not aware of it, I'm sure there are lots of YouTube videos on it. And you should become aware, because it is something that they are wanting to move us towards, and are. But if it's being done for any other reason, I don't know. So anyway, it sounds quite conspiratorial, but your alternative is to believe that Barack Obama and Dianne Feinstein acted in the best interest of America. Pfft, when have they ever done that? Like I said, it's a fashion statement, and here's Mike. I don't know how long this is, so I don't want to get into it if it's really long, but oh, it's 27 minutes. Okay, well, I always put my show notes on Patreon, so you'll be able to access them there, and you'll be able to get to this article if you wish and see this video. All right, now let's go back, because we've got more. We've always got more. The news never ends. All right, this is not important right now, but I'd like to get to it at some point, because it's the moment in history when Muslims began to see dogs as dirty, impure, and evil. Apparently, Muhammad actually had dogs. So, yeah, it's odd. It's a very odd story, and it's one we will get into, but there's too many other important things to get to. So let's go on here. And, okay, this, actually, I'm going to get rid of that. And this, because that shouldn't be there either. I've already covered that. Now, I'm not sure if I've covered this or not. So let's go take a look. Don't want to miss anything. It's all important. Okay, yes. This from Bruno Barking, which is another good person to follow on YouTube. And he said, Egyptian media, John McCain was the godfather of the Muslim Brotherhood. And this is from Q, 4th of September, 2018. And he says, John McCain was on his way to becoming an American hero, but instead became a senator for ISIS and the Muslim Brotherhood. No American senator fought for Islamic rights and the arming of jihadists like Senator McCain. And Robert Spencer of the Egyptian media said John McCain was the godfather, leader, and real supreme guide of the Muslim Brotherhood. So there you go. That doesn't surprise me. I've heard it before. And it says, zooming out from McCain's own posted photo with ISIS leader Baghdadi. And here he is. No, that's not going to make it any bigger, is it? But right here, right there, that's Baghdadi. In happier times, I'm sure. And 3, Senator McCain. And number 1 is Abu Massa, ISIS press officer. So there you go. Seems pretty comfortable with these guys. Doesn't seem to think that he's in any sort of danger at all, does he? And it says, interesting that Egyptian media called McCain the Godfather. What about the Q drops? 25 times Godfather is mentioned. Here's just one. Godfather the 3, be prepared for what you find. Q. And this Godfather post by Q also mentions the old guard is threatened, but not just threatened. And this from Q on the 14th of July, 2019, fake news attacks only validate the message. Old guard threatened. Think size and scope of continual mainstream media attacks. Godfather the 3. Godfather 3, not Godfather the 3. You are witnessing the systematic destruction of the old guard. And this is from Q on the 24th of July, 2018. He said, you are watching the systematic destruction of the old guard. Power will return to the people. Q. And let's come down here. Confirmation from military blue check. No place to hide. The old guard is being destroyed. Power returning to we the people. And this says the old guard at U.S. Army, old guard. Halloween officially arrives at the old guard with the Kaysen haunted stables. Contrary to actions taken by horror movie characters, the leather shop and the farrier shops are not safe places to hide if being pursued by a villainous masked individual. Interesting. And another, Bruno Barking says, the changing of the old guard. This but from the U.S. Army, this dated October 30th, Tomb Sentinels from the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard, participate in the changing of the guard ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Arlington National Cemetery, Arlington. I have been there. I have been there more than once. I've been there twice. Who cares? No one really. And Bruno Barking, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. And I'm not sure what this is. Oh, yeah. It has a picture of both John F. Kennedy and Trump here. And let's come down to see what else he has for us. I think that's it. So there you go. I thought that thread was interesting to get to. And let's go back, see what else we have here. I got a lot here. I got a lot of stuff. All right. Okay, that ties into the other one that we've already looked at, where it says top German journalist admits mainstream media completely fake. We all lie, CIA. So that is another one that's very similar. But let me see what else I can get to here. Rush Limbaugh just made a great point that both Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are both promising to withhold aid from Israel if they don't change their stance on Gaza. That's a quid pro quo. It's exactly what they're blaming Trump for doing, and they're openly declaring it. They are such hypocrites. They do the exact same things, but seems okay for them, but it's impeachable for Trump, and he didn't even do it. They did it. Unbelievable. And let me see here. Yeah, this is interesting as well. Of course, we have heard that Chelsea Clinton is Webster Hubbell's child, and indeed, Hillary did have an affair with Webster Hubbell. Okay, well, that's well known. But look at this. It says on the left, this is Chelsea Clinton, and on the right is Rebecca Hubbell. They laugh alike, they walk alike, at times they even talk alike, and they do look like sisters. You've got to admit, they really do. So I think that we're pretty safe to say that, she is Webster Hubbell's daughter through and through. Which is fine, but why all the secrecy? All right. Now, oh yes, it says President Trump just donated his $400,000 salary to rebuild military cemeteries, but I didn't hear that on the news. No, funny, I didn't either. And there's so much here. I think I'm going to have to, I wish I could do another one tonight because there's just so much stuff here. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, now this is from QAnon 55, Use Logic Lab. I am not a Facebook person. I used to be, but I never go there anymore. I don't know. I just can't stomach it anymore. But this is on Facebook. It says, finally, the real reason behind Bergdahl's release, Hillary's server being wiped, and the Benghazi massacre. Here's the real Benghazi story. Ambassador Stevens was sent to Benghazi to secretly retrieve U.S.-made Stinger missiles that the State Department had supplied to Ansar al-Sharia in Libya without congressional oversight or permission. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton had brokered the Libya deal through Ambassador Stevens and a private arms dealer named Mark Turi. But some of the shoulder-fired Stinger missiles ended up in Afghanistan, where they were used against our own military. On July 25th, 2012, a U.S. Chinook helicopter was downed by one of them, not destroyed only because the idiot Taliban didn't arm the missile. Thank goodness. The helicopter didn't explode, but it had to land, and an ordnance team recovered the missile's serial number, which led back to a cache of Stinger missiles kept in Qatar by the CIA. Obama and Hillary were in full panic mode. Now, this isn't the first time I'm hearing this, so to me, it's true. I believe that it's true. I've heard this, from other sources as well. So let me just see here. Obama and Hillary were in full panic mode, so Ambassador Stevens was sent to Benghazi to retrieve the rest of the Stinger missiles. That was a do-or-die mission, which explains the stand-down orders given to multiple rescue teams during the siege of the U.S. Embassy. It was the State Department, not the CIA, that supplied the Stinger missiles to our sworn enemies, because General Petraeus at CIA would not approve supplying the deadly missiles due to their potential use against commercial aircraft. So then Obama threw General Petraeus under the bus when he refused to testify in support of Obama's phony claim of a spontaneous uprising caused by a YouTube video that insulted Muslims. Obama and Hillary committed treason. That is what the investigation is all about. Why she had a private server in order to delete the digital evidence, and why Obama, 2 weeks after the attack, told the UN that the attack was the result of the YouTube video. And why Obama, 2 weeks after the attack, told the UN that the attack was the result of the YouTube video, even though everyone knew it was not. Furthermore, the Taliban knew that the administration had aided and abetted the enemy without congressional oversight or permission. So they began pressuring, blackmailing the Obama administration to release 5 Taliban generals being held at Guantanamo. Bo Bergdahl was just a useful pawn used to cover the release of the Taliban generals. Everyone knew Bergdahl was a traitor, but Obama used Bergdahl's exchange for the 5 Taliban generals to cover that Obama was being coerced by the Taliban about the unauthorized Stinger missile deal. So we have a traitor, Barack Hussein Obama, as a POTUS that is not only corrupt but compromised as well, and a Secretary of State that is a serial liar who perjured herself multiple times at the congressional hearings on Benghazi. Perhaps this is why no military aircraft were called upon to help in Benghazi, because the administration knew that our enemies had Stinger missiles, that if used to down those planes would likely be traced back to the CIA cache in Qatar and then to the State Department's illegitimate arms deals in Libya. Okay. Everyone needs to know the true story of Benghazi. More than half of U.S. citizens do not know. And probably a lot of them do not care, unfortunately. Unfortunately. We need to care. It's absolutely, it turns my stomach that they could allow this to happen. It does. It turns, and it's, yeah. Anyway, it says Anne Agnew said he was tortured and sodomized, and as Secretary of State, she could and should have stopped it. May she roast in hell for what she has done, and not forgetting the children she has abused and raped. May she be roasted several times in hell. I don't want anybody to roast in hell. My sincere wish is that they come to repentance. I really, yes, there are people that are deserving of hell, but you know what? We have all sinned. We have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. It's why we need a Savior. And of course, you don't have to believe as I believe. That's fine. We can agree to disagree. But as a Christian, I can't endorse, cheering on somebody going to hell. Yeah, this is a very, very sad chapter in American history. So let's go back now, and I think because I'm pretty, I'm not sure how long I've been going now, but I don't think this says, but alrighty. Oh, I think what I'll do, I don't know if I've got it in me to do another video or not, so I'm going to get this uploaded, and if I can possibly do another short video, I'm going to, because there's a lot of stuff that I want to get to. Actually, this says it's connected to the above, so let's take a look at this first before we call it a night. Come on. Okay, this is connected. Obama DOJ drops charges against alleged broker of Libyan weapons. Arms dealer had threatened to expose Hillary Clinton's talks about arming al-Qaddafi rebels. Now, this is from 10/4/2016, but it's pertinent to what we just discussed. The Obama administration is moving to dismiss charges against an arms dealer it had accused of selling weapons that were destined for Libyan rebels. Lawmakers for the Justice Department on Monday filed a motion in federal court in Phoenix to drop the case against the arms dealer, an American named Mark Turi, whose lawyers also signed the motion. The deal averts a trial that threatened to cast additional scrutiny on Hillary Clinton's private emails as Secretary of State and to expose reported Central Intelligence Agency's attempt to arm rebels fighting Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. Government lawyers were facing a Wednesday deadline to produce documents to Turi's legal team, and the trial was officially set to begin on Election Day, although it would have been delayed by protracted disputes about classified information in the case. A Turi associate asserted that the government dropped the case because the proceedings could have embarrassed Clinton and President Barack Obama by calling attention to the reported role of their administrations in supplying weapons that fell into the hands of Islamic extremist militants. So there you have it. I mean, that's exactly what happened. They don't want this stuff to come out because it will look really bad for Obama and Clinton just before the election, said the associate. In the dismissal motion, prosecutors say discovery rulings from U.S. District Court Judge David Campbell contributed to the decision to drop the case. The joint motion asks the judge to accept a confidential agreement to resolve the case through a civil settlement between the State Department and the arms broker. Our position from the outset has been that this case should never have been brought, and we're glad it's over, said Jean-Jacques Cabot, a Perkins Coie partner serving as court-appointed defense counsel in the case. Mr. Turi didn't break the law. We're very glad the charges are being dismissed. Under the deal, Turi admits that no guilt in the transactions he participated in, but he agrees to refrain from U.S. regulated arms dealings for 4 years, just 4 years. So, yeah, he's back at it in 2020. According to this, because this is 2016, so he'll be able to sell arms again by 2020. A $200,000 civil penalty will be waived if Turi abides by the agreement. A State Department official confirmed the outlines of the agreement. Mr. Turi cooperated with the department's Directorate of Defense Trade Controls in its review and proposed administration settlement of the alleged violations. Okay, I'm not going to get into all that. We know that he was let off because they didn't want to draw attention to the misdeeds of Obama and Hillary, especially Hillary, because it was just prior to the election. Yeah, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice of them? Do you think they would have given Trump the same? No, of course, Trump wouldn't be so stupid as to be caught in something like this. Yeah, so I think that is it for that. Again, this will be posted to Patreon, so you'll be able to get the notes from this if you wish to investigate any of this further. All right, I think I'm going to call that a night. But first, yes, I almost forgot. I did almost forget, and I shouldn't. It's very important. Okay, up here. Thank you, coffee donors. Anon, he or she said, enjoy watching your videos and buying you coffee. Hi, Sammy and Xander. Well, Sammy and Xander says hi right back. And Lorene, God bless you and kitties. Maranatha. Maranatha is an Arabic word and it means our Lord has come, and he has. Janine Hendrickson, thank you very much. And Susan C., she said, big thanks for your work from Northern Alabama. Love your charming humor. Baghdadi's underwear got me. Yeah, that was a weird story, if ever there was one. And Julie from Utah says, thanks for everything, Michelle. What do you think of that pedophile, Tom Hanks, playing Mr. Rogers? Well, I think it's a fitting role for him. I don't know anything about Mr. Rogers other than I used to watch him as a child. I don't know his sexual preference, if he was what he was. I don't know, and I don't really care. But I think that it's awful that Tom Hanks is playing Mr. Rogers, although he does a good job at it. So I don't know what I think about it, to tell you the truth. I know I won't be watching it because it has Tom Hanks in it. So there you go. And I've got a couple new Patreon supporters as well that I'd like to thank. Denise and Scott Peters are both new Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. I really appreciate my Patreon supporters and, of course, my coffee donors as well. It keeps me going. It helps to kind of compensate for my time, but also, you know, for any equipment or anything that I need, I take out of that money as well. So thank you so much. It keeps me doing what I'm doing, and I love it. So there you go. And also Sarah Battle and Charity Carr, they both increased their pledges to Patreon. So thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it. I did get a couple things in the mail today, but I didn't bring them over, so I'm going to mention that in my next video. Maybe not the very next video if I do it right after this one. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. I hope you have a good night. I hope you survived Halloween, and I hope you had a happy start to November. So you guys stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth, because deception pretty much bites.